Welcome back to the Wellness Wonderland Radio, everyone. This is Katie, and today I have with me my glowing guest on the show. I could not be more thrilled and honored to have my idol and soul sister, Latham Thomas. Latham is the genius behind the Mama Glow empire, author of Mama Glow, a must-read for anyone who is pregnant, might be pregnant someday, been pregnant in the past, knows somebody who might be pregnant, really anyone on earth. It's an amazing book, which can really benefit everybody. And every time I hear an interview with her, I think it would be so cool to chat with her and be her friend. She just seems so down to earth and so authentic. And for some reason, I was just telling her before we started recording, I feel so connected with her for some reason. So this is a huge treat to have her in Wonderland today. So thank you so much for stopping by Wonderland, Latham.
Thank you for having me. Amazing.
Yay. Okay. Well, let's jump right in. And you live in your own wellness wonderland, I would definitely say. So how did you get there? And kind of, even though there really is no there, but if you could just kind of give us a little bit of your journey to holistic health and kind of how it began. Have you always been passionate about health, or was there a big turning point for you?
Oh, that's a great question. I'm from California, and in Cali, there's sort of this interesting kind of way of living where everybody that lives there is immersed in this dynamic between the landscape being so integral in our environment, and also the urban, landscape. And so although I lived in a city, I was able to see life cycles sort of unfold always. And so, like, watching caterpillars and then them, blossom into butterflies, and watching, plants that would, really root themselves in the soil, and then, end up flowering and then fruiting. And then we would pick that fruit and eat it. And I just remember being exposed to sort of this natural element always, but very much being a part of a city sort of upbringing, urban upbringing. And it was because of, I think, the way that, and the place that I grew up, where I was able to see all these life cycles unfold, that I really took interest in plant sciences, plant systems. I also studied with a master herbalist at a young age. And so she taught me a lot about plants, and I became really enthralled with this sort of magic of living things, particularly plants, and how they lend their power to us for us to be better. So, plants that heal and sustain, and also help to rejuvenate us in different ways. And so that was really the rudiments for me. Like, it was just some information and experiences that I kind of placed in my back pocket, along the journey. And when I moved to New York City, I noticed that it was a wildly different environment to be in. I had gone from California to Colorado for boarding school and being in the outdoors there, and then to like a very urban, concrete, jungle, as they call it in New York City. And it's totally different here. There's not as many trees.
Where dreams are made of.
Exactly. There's not as many trees here, and it's not as, people aren't as connected to the environment here. And I knew that that was something that I wanted to help bring to people more, like this sense of grounding in your environment and being involved with nature, even when you are in a place that's like devoid of it. So so that was sort of like the beginning. And then it really all came full circle once I became pregnant with my son, that I started to see all these divine connections between sort of what I studied and was enthralled with the plant world, and what was happening internally in my own body, and how the life cycles that take place around us also take place through us. And so, when you're connected to that experience, and you trust it, just like we trust that the sun will come up every morning and that the moon will light up our night. Um, you just don't think otherwise. You know that that's truth. If you trust that there's truth in the cycles in the body and that they will play out in the way that they were designed to, then you could have this really beautiful experience. And that's what I had for my pregnancy and childbirth. And it was so incredible that it made me want to dedicate my life's work to helping improve the quality of life for women during pregnancy and this sort of childbearing period. So that was really kind of how I got there. But I would definitely say the biggest sort of piece for it was that the light bulb really went off full blast when I became pregnant with my son Fulano.
Wow. Okay, cool. Well, first of all, I didn't know you were from California. You just seem so New York to me.
That's so funny.
That I didn't know that. But first of all, that was all just amazing. But I think going back, what came up for me when you were talking about how when you became pregnant, this all really came to the center for you. And I think for me, I think there's so much fear. Like, we trust some things, like we trust that the sun's going to come out and the moon's going to rise, which was so beautiful the way you said that. And there's so much trust there in that part of it. But then I think at the same time, there's so much fear related to these cycles that we can't see. And I think that for me, what you demystify with your work with pregnancy and demystifying that when it can be such a scary thing for people, is kind of taking that fear away and letting that trust come in of it's going to be okay, just like it's okay when the sun goes away because you trust so much that the sun will rise again. And I think your work really helps people with that and helps demystify that fear, if that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you.
But anyways, going back to that a little bit, when you grew up and you were first interested in plants, was health always part of your life growing up, or was that something that you kind of built for yourself?
I would say that, health has always been a factor in our lifestyle. My mom's side of the family is very healthy. That's who I grew up with. And so my mom's really healthy. My grandparents are very healthy. And we're so super close. My grandparents, when they even come to visit, they're like out in the city and on the streets all day and, very active and youthful. And so I definitely attribute that to lifestyle of being in a place where they've had low stress um, and also, like eating fairly well. So I think that for me, growing up in a family where a lot of our communing happens around food, like most families, that we come together around really amazing dishes and most of which were healthy. I mean, there was definitely some, I think, holidays where it's just not, but most of, our daily food that we would eat was really healthy. And my grandmother had stuff growing in her yard um, and I remember also like, there was other places where there was stuff growing and we could just go and pick it. And I wrote a cookbook when I was 8 years old, based on foods that were growing. And so I had all these things that I would pick and then I would ask my grandmother to cook it for me. And so she would make soups and all kind of stuff based on, what we would bring to her. And so I kind of, that was my first sort of experience learning like, oh my God, like I could do this. Like I could pick this out of the ground and then cook it and I could eat it. Because what you see like when you're going to the grocery store is like, soup comes out of a can or, you know what I mean? And
Right.
So when I was little, I wasn't in the kitchen in the same way like I was when I was a teenager. And so that's when I really got to see like, okay, this is, biscuits from scratch or whatever it is. I was really getting immersed in that. And we would always hang out in the kitchen. And so um, all of our communal events sort of revolved around that. And so it was always like I think an aspect of like healthy living was sort of, sprinkled in because we were like living in a place where there was incredible produce. And so that was always whatever was ripe and in season was always a part of, what was on the dinner table. And even when we would go to my grandmother's house, whatever was in season, she would have a pie for that. So if it was rhubarb or if it was stone fruits like peaches and plums, that would be there. Or she would make jams and we would make sherbets and jellies and all kinds of things with her and pickles because she was really into cucumbers. And so then we would make pickles. And so all this stuff was really like, I just considered it to be normal. And so when I moved to New York and I saw that everybody didn't have this sort of, you know, I guess, consciousness around what they were eating or even preparing, I felt like I was equipped with something, like a little bit of a secret, I wouldn't say weapon, but like a nice little weapon of consciousness, a little tool, that helped to prepare me because I could really cook well because I watched for so many years. And the connection for me for food is medicine and food is healing really came when I started studying the herbs. And then I brought that into the kitchen. But that came later, like that was definitely like in my early teens when I started to see the connection there.
That's really cool. And I love that. Like, I'm so into that right now. I mean, I just have a little basil plant outside, but that picking your food and then taking it and creating something with it is, I don't think there's a better high, honestly. Maybe that's just because we're into wellness and herbs and all of this, and maybe other people have other stuff. But for me, like, that is where it's at. Like, I just think that is amazing. And I really can feel connected with the earth when I do that and really grounded. And I think the world feels like a wellness wonderland, or really like, I think of Willy Wonka, and I feel like God or the universe put all of this food that we're supposed to eat on the earth. And when I go to the farmer's market, and I don't know if you can relate to this, I'd love to know, but when I see all of this stuff that we were supposed to eat, I really think, like, since I find all these new vegetables and fruits that I've never had before, and I start thinking like, oh my gosh, like this really is like Willy Wonka. Like there's all, like it was candy there, but for me it's vegetables here, which sounds kind of silly, but it's that like, wow, this is how we were meant to eat. This is our wonderland. We really do live in this Willy Wonka world, and I just think that's really cool.
I love that.
Yeah. Is that something, and I loved your stories about cooking with your grandmother and growing up that way, and clearly that was important to you. So is that something that you have decided to share with your son?
Yes, 100%. My son's been cooking since very little. I even have a video of him making kale on the stove, and he was probably about 2 years old and sitting on a high chair. And stirring the pot on the stove. And I don't think that there was any burners on. We were just like letting him play.
Oh.
But, letting him wash the vegetables and break up the vegetables or cut up pieces of fruit with like little, little baby cutlery and, helping, I think is so important. And you can start kids at such an early age with an appropriate activity at in kitchen prep. And you can also help them by bringing them to the grocery store with you as you make choices with food. And my biggest thing with him, and we shop in like Whole Foods and farmers markets, and so we don't really have this issue. But, if we go to places where we travel and they don't have what we're used to, shopping on the perimeter where like all the fresh things are and staying out of the aisles, it keeps them focused on the things that are good for them. And we would go to the produce sections and pick out different colored foods, or maybe, teach him about numbers by saying, okay, like you're going to pick 5 purple things and then 2 orange things. And, like have him help me when he was small. And that was our way. And then I would also have him cook. And so if he's playing a video game or reading a book or entertaining, it doesn't matter what he's doing. if I say I'm cooking, he's running into the kitchen to help. And it's his favorite thing to do. And he loves also watching this show, Rocco DiSpirito.
Oh yeah, I
Um,
love him. My
oh
mom
my
loves
God,
him.
my son is obsessed. So
So is
he,
my mom.
it's so funny. He's obsessed by him. So
The dinner
he's
party one?
I think it's like a show where he recreates junk foods. It's on a Saturday morning, so it comes on right after his cartoons.
Aw.
So he watches it right after cartoons, and then he writes down these recipes, and he's like, okay, mom, I want to make this, and I want to make that. And it's so cute because he talks about like, oh, this person was eating like this, and they were overweight, and they learned how to make this healthier. And so he's really conscious of
That's
the fact that there's
awesome.
health disparities in our country, and even like in his classroom that there's some kids who are struggling with health stuff as far as obesity and things like that, and always being conscientious about like fresh food and making really good choices. And I definitely taught that early, and I know that it plays out when he's not with me. When he's with other people, he's always choosing the best option, and only eats when he's hungry and then stops when he's full. Like, oh, these are all things that were just like learned in the house.
What an amazing way to grow up. Like that's so wonderful. I want to come and watch Rocco with him and cook with you guys.
Right. So much
That
fun. You should
that sounds
definitely come.
amazing. That sounds amazing. Well, so getting back to, well, speaking of your son, you've created, since the birth of your son, you've created quite the niche audience and core audience for you. And I've heard in interviews before you talking about the importance of that and how that was really able to help you build your brand. But talking about now, how do you see your audience growing and expanding in the future?
That's a great question. So, I mean, Mama Glow really was born out of the need and necessity for a lifestyle brand to address the changing, evolving needs of a prenatal woman, but also one who's urbane, who's fashionable, and who's also quite educated about her options and wants to just have the best experience ever. And so um, I see that person, I mean, I was that person, right? And I saw that like our needs weren't being met. And then I see every day women walking down the street. I'm like, oh, there's Mama Glow. Like I see women who really embody the messaging. And really what it's a lifestyle, it's a movement. It's not just about having a baby. It's about birthing the best iteration of yourself, a business, a screenplay, a ballet, a book, whatever that is, but also yourself. Because we start, like anything at the seed level, there's a thought. And that thought starts to become pervasive and it roots itself, and then you start to flesh it out. And all that process happens in the dark before it emerges as this the implementation of something, right, that you share with the world. And what I believe is that each of us has that rattling inside of us, right, at varying degrees. And so either we nurture it, we listen to the whispers, we nurture it, we allow it to come out full blast, and we don't dial it down for other people. We turn it up full blast, and that's really what the glow power is all about, is shining and turning up the speakers really loudly so people can like hear that divine message that you have to share, and lighting up the world with your uniqueness. And so Mama Glow is just like the beginning of it, but what I see is the arc is really just a general movement of owning your glow and owning this power that we have as women, and men have it too, God bless them. And really owning this power that we have and reclaiming all aspects of ourselves, the shadow parts that we don't really like, or the parts that we've been told to be afraid of, or to shun, or that aren't good about ourselves, and integrate them. Because every superhero has like a little weakness, right? But it has to be
Oh,
pulled into the
yeah.
fold we have to pull all those aspects into ourselves and embrace them and celebrate them, because that's what makes you different, unique, and yourself. And all those things that make you different and that are seeming to you as weaknesses could act as really powerful, strong points to help catapult you through life. So whether it's through business or if it's through relationships or whatever it is that you're trying to do, we need to embrace these parts of ourselves. And so that's what we're about at Mama Glow, and this whole movement, about Glow Power, which my second book is about, is really for all women to help us take this journey, this creative journey into exploring ourselves on the deepest level and bringing forth this divine light that's inside, and creating this portal for it to come out and shine for the world. That's what really the direction that we're headed is, to pull all women in and together so that we can create that support. We can be beacons of light for each other and also for the world.
Oh, that's amazing, especially because with women, there's so much give. And I think that's something I've really learned from you, especially through other things that I've read and listened from you, where you've talked a lot about empowering, asking for that help, but also empowering people to give that help, because we get empowered by helping other people. And I think that was really, I actually thought of that when you were talking about your son and having him help in the kitchen, and you're actually empowering him by allowing him to help and allowing him to be in the kitchen. But it's the same thing for mothers and people, asking those other glowing people in their lives to step in and help. And so it really does become this community of just a glowing community. And I think that's really, really awesome.
Thank you.
But going off of that, and we talked about this a little bit, but I just want to mention too that the great thing that I really love about Mama Glow is that it's for whatever you're birthing. And I'm actually using it right now because I'm pregnant with, my mom is like freaking out as I say that, but I'm pregnant with a book right now. And I don't even know if I've really told my readers about this, but I'm super psyched about it. I was just at the Hay House Writers Workshop, and you actually inspired me to do it. I haven't told you this yet, but you have such this great niche audience with that transitional time where you're pregnant with a baby. And I actually got the idea for my book, which is going to be about the transitional time after college, where you're transitioning from being pretty much taken care of to really being on your own. And that can be a really funky time for people. And it was for me. So I just went through it. And just like the birth of your son inspired you to create what you created, I'm using my experience of that transition between college and whatever's next to write this book. So I'm using Mama Glow to birth my book. And having that niche audience, I think, is really, really great. So what advice do you have for people who are interested in something broad, like health or wellness or whatever it is, and they're trying to find their niche or stay focused on what they want to do? Do you have any advice for them?
Yes, I think that you said a couple of things that are spot on. A few words. You said niche, and you said focus, and you also said broad. So the thing about broad, doing something that's broad, like a broad topic, is that people think that it's a safety net, right? So, okay, I'm gonna, be a wellness practitioner or a health, whatever it is that you're trying to be. And it's not specific enough for someone to identify whether or not they need it, right? Whether or not they need you. If they're in person with you and they get to experience you, it's a whole different, ball game. But if they don't get to, and they're just looking at a card, a business card or a flyer or online, and they have to choose between you and maybe, I don't know, 20,000 other listings, right? Just, for example, then it's like, well, what makes you different, right? If you use the same language as someone else does or as everyone else does because you feel, well, it's safe and this is what people are interested in and I'll get more clients this way. The truth is you actually don't, because when you try to like cast a wide net, you don't end up catching as much as if you did a more narrow actual focus. And the thing is, like, say you're casting a net, and you wanted to catch, I don't know, I'm not really good with fish metaphors or anything. I don't even eat them. But say you were casting this net in the sea, and you're like, I just want to catch crabs. I'm just going to cast a wide net. You're going to catch everything else but those. And then you could say, oh, I know this particular area where there's tons of little crabs that go around. And you put a little tiny net there, and you end up with a whole bunch of them, right? So it's really about knowing, I think, who you want to serve, right? Because if you cast a net, a wide one, you're going to get everything because there's no filter, right? And you get everything that you don't want to, or you get nothing at all. How about? Because you don't know what you're looking for. So I feel like when people are very specific, like I want a woman between the ages of 22 and 45 years old, an income of whatever, in whatever city, whatever it is that you're looking for, very specific, and understanding what that person's needs are, because you really get in the mind of the customer, then you're going to be able to find those people, rather those people will find you, because you'll have put out this magnetic sort of charge, right? You put this energy out that you're available for this type of experience, for this type of person. You become a magnet for that type of person, and so that's who you get. But you have to know who that type of person is first, right? So you have to be able to provide an immaculate service, right? But you have to know what the service is. And so I think that everyone gets really caught up with, okay, I'm out here, I'm doing this thing, I'm a practitioner, and then they get frustrated because it doesn't pick up right away. Well, it doesn't pick up right away for a couple of reasons. You're not in charge for how quickly things move, right? God is in charge of that. But what you are in charge of is making sure that you're being the most authentic and effective as possible with your message. And who you reach and touch with that message is who will come. So your job is to really focus on gathering as much information as possible about your target audience and creating that target audience, and then at designing programs, materials, products, services to feed to that market, right? For their concerns, right? And that's what's going to really allow you to hone your skills. It'll teach you a ton about, the market. It'll give you adequate market research, but it'll also allow you to sort of ascend as a person who is an expert in a particular space, right? There's tons of specialists in every single category that you can imagine in the world. There is a specialist for box jellyfish. There's a specialist, for everything, right? And if we didn't have those people, we wouldn't have the incredible insight and research and whatever it is for these particular focuses. So we need somebody to stand up and decide if they're going to focus on maternal health, or they're going to, whatever it is, and be very particular on who they're reaching out to so that you can serve, because there's always somebody that's underserved, right? And if you feel like you're connected with a particular audience, even if it feels, it's not your responsibility to decide whether or not it's going to succeed. It's just your responsibility to move with the force within you that's telling you to go. And if you're getting these whispers all the time that's telling you go, 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 then you just need to go and check it out and see how it goes. And if it doesn't work out, you just keep going. You cannot decide based on, only a couple months of doing something that it doesn't work. and then jump to the next thing. This is another piece of what you spoke about, focus. A lot of practitioners and people who are out there that I've talked to will focus on one thing for a couple months, maybe a year, get really frustrated, and then head to the next thing that feels very secure. The problem with that is then they're not impassioned with the next thing that they jump into. They just do it because they want a certain level of security. And then the thing that they could have been building 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the line would have been a business at that point, right? But they focus their energy someplace else because they feel like, well, I don't know if I can do it. As soon as you start doubting yourself and making up these excuses for why you can't do something, like you can't anymore, right? So the idea is to have single pointed focus on whatever it is that you're looking to do. And not only find supports, right? Your sister circle, which we talk about in Mama Glow, to help you. So there's sisters that you gather who are your cheerleaders and people who support you, who you can share ideas with. But also, like, you could have a little board of directors, almost how businesses have. You could have a personal board, right? Where there's people who are your elders in different aspects of whatever it is that you're looking to do. So if it's something in business, you have a couple people who, maybe an entrepreneurial person, maybe somebody in finance, maybe somebody in, marketing, different people who are like geniuses in these particular areas who can really teach you a lot. You need to have these people around you who believe in you, who can help you, as you're coming up the ranks. And that's a huge thing. And I have so many people to thank for me because I definitely didn't know when I set out what I was doing. I didn't go to business school. I was figuring it out as I went. And to me, it's like business school on the go. It's like I'm constantly learning things and obviously checking in with my sister circle constantly and my personal board of directors as well as like my business board. And it's important to have these people to knock ideas around, people to help you with perspective, people to also support, lift up, and behold your dreams. So those are my, biggest pieces. I think, you have to focus your energy because when you do that, you can bear incredible fruit. But only when you focus your energy can you do that.
I love that. I love that. There was so much good stuff there. And I think one of the things that stuck out to me and something that really helped me get clear about that focus was just tuning in and listening. And then once I heard it, and this is something that I learned from your good friend Gabby, she says to just get so clear about your audience, knowing where they live, what they do, what they eat, what they say. And that was really huge for her. And that's something I think everybody has to do is get really clear about that audience because then you can find them. She was saying, she was talking about when she wrote her first book, Add More Ink to Your Life. She knew who that audience was and she could see them so clearly. She actually made me stand up at the conference. She was like, this was my audience. This was who I was writing it for, someone who looked like her. And she was able to see that. And I think when you can see your audience that clearly and have that vision, you're really able to tune in and be able to help them and listen to that voice of what Gabby calls your ing and just go with that and run with that. So I think that that's super powerful. So thank you so much for really helping us to understand that. That's really powerful. But getting back to hearing that voice, that inner voice, where do you hear your, as Gabby calls it, your ing voice loudest? And how do you remind yourself to follow that? And has that, being that tuned in to that inner light within you or your ing or whatever it is that you call it, your glow power, have you always been tuned into that? Have you always been meditating, or is that something a practice that you grew in your life?
I definitely grew into a more self-reflective practice as I grew up. I was always, as a kid, immersed in prayer and going to church with my grandmother, with my father, and had a very, sort of, I don't call it God-fearing, but definitely God-loving relationship. And I always heard voices in my head. Like I'm not like a crazy type of hearing of voices, but more just like,
Yeah.
things will just always speak to me. There's always whispers about whether or not I should do something, and and if I would listen to it, I would feel some sort of like amazing euphoria, and then when I didn't listen, I wouldn't feel so good about myself, and so I sort of came to know what that was much later, that that intuitive voice I call a soul flashlight, which is really
Mm.
what glow power is rooted in. I started to develop this. I think as a child, I always had it. And I always felt very powerful as a child. I always spoke very, like, candidly about my future and was a dreamer. And then I think at a certain point, I don't know what point that was for me, sort of certain aspects of that weren't like shut off, but I think like maybe paused. And I think it was because I sort of saw that, culturally speaking, being creative and like somebody who has this mind that wanders is not valued in our culture, although the creative output is. So whatever it is that you do that sparks the incredible idea is not a value, but the idea itself, the outcome is. And so I was like, wow, like there's not really a place for creatives. Like nobody thinks really like me. I'm left-handed and I feel like a little bit alone in that sense. And I think that it was once I mean, definitely high school, being in a boarding school and being surrounded by nature. I felt really rooted and connected always. Moving to New York, I think is really when, the idea of meditation became more pervasive, kept showing up in various ways to me. I didn't really need it prior. Like my life was sort of a walking meditation. I was in these beautiful places that were like low stress. I was super connected. So I didn't need anything to give me tether in a sense. And when I came to New York, I was like, wow, okay, this is why people go sit, right? This is why people, take these moments
Mm.
or 90 minutes and like move their bodies in an active movement meditation through yoga, because this is a place that is constantly moving. And so I was like, okay, I get that, I'm ready for it. And that's when I started to sort of naturally be guided. It wasn't like I was like, oh, I'm going to go take some classes. I did go to sort of meditation workshop, and I felt really out, like outsider, and I just know that, divine is in each of us, and that you don't really need an intermediary to connect with what's already inside of you. Um, like you don't need somebody to, help you, tap into your own soul GPS. So you have it. You just have to, remember that it's there, and you have to do what makes you actually feel in connection with it. So whatever makes you feel, sometimes for a lot of people it's not sitting, and I'm really frank about that, especially in the Mama Glow book. It's not for everybody to sit still, right? Some people's meditation is, in kickboxing class or on a soul cycle bike or running, so I think it just is whatever works for you, and you can't beat yourself up if it's not, sitting on a meditation pillow with incense and like some beautiful candles lit. Does not work for everybody. It does work for me. I love the
Will
vibe
you
of
share
feeling held.
your, would you actually share your meditation practice with us?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, what I do and recommend people to try to do and see how it feels is, every day I wake up, and in the morning I lie in bed before I wake up, and
I was going to ask you to share your morning routine, so this is wonderful.
oh, good. So I lie in bed and I start to just count blessings up. I just start to think about what I'm grateful for, all the things that are sweet in my life. I have this beautiful incense from Yemen. It's a resin actually, and I light that, and it smells so sweet. So I light that, and so it can fill the room with this smoky sweetness. And they say that incense is the medium for spirits to breathe in, and so we smoke rooms and spaces where we want spirit to feel welcome. And so that's a big thing for me too. And it also makes, the space really fragrant, obviously. So I smoke the room with the incense, and then I get up, and it's like I sit at the edge of my bed in the fireplace. There's a Buddha, and actually an Indonesian Buddha, and it's like surrounded by all these amazing, beautiful found objects and crystals and peacock feathers and so forth. And that's where I sit, and I have a beautiful little pillow that I sit on that feels cozy for me. And my son sometimes joins me. Oftentimes I'm up earlier, so I'm there by myself, and that's where I just sit. And then I stretch too, and I move, right, my body. And that's what feels good for me is like kind of, you know, petitioning, like prayers and asking for things but giving thanks, and then moving my body to
So
sort of
you
like let it
sit,
settle in.
so you sit and meditate, and then you get up and do some yoga after that?
Yeah, I get up and do yoga or dance or whatever feels right. Like I turn on music always in the morning. That's how we sort of start the day. Always music. That's the first thing my son hears when he gets up. And when I go to wake him, I already turn on the music so that there's already a dance party. And so
I
then
love it.
I'm dancing, and then I wake him. My blood is already like a little bit moving. I wake him up, and he does some little stretching, and then we start the day. After that, it's like the day is full on, right? It's like getting ready for school, whatever. But then at the end of the day, very similarly, it's like a ritual to cap off the day. Definitely glow time for myself in the evening, putting my son to bed. He has his little ritual of his little prayers that he does. And then I go to bed. Similarly how I started the day, where like I sort of reflect on what happened to the day, and what I want to make beautiful tomorrow, and I just dream on it, and I let those be the last kind of thoughts that I have, because I think that so often we're like thinking about things that like really have no business being in our thought pattern. And or watching TV. Like I know a lot of people that fall asleep to TV, which is also like really not awesome for you. Just think about it. Like whatever messages are coming through, enter your consciousness and superficially, right? Like they enter, but then they go really deep, right? Because you're unconscious. So that means that things that come in actually can like take root, these thoughts and ideas. And so if you're watching like Housewives and you go to sleep to that, that's the energy you're marinating in for 8 hours,
Ah!
right? It's like not awesome. So you want to think about, what am I listening to as I go to sleep? What am I watching before I go to bed? So if you do like to watch TV, and I'm not criticizing anybody's choice for entertainment television, but if you do watch TV before, maybe like stopping a few hours ahead, like maybe it's like 1 or 2 hours before, you turn off all that and like pull out a good book. Maybe there's like an amazing book or something that's intriguing to you right now. If you're focusing on like creating like loving relationships in your life, maybe you get like a beautiful, journal or a book. There's tons of beautiful books about this. I mean, I love this Robert Holden book about love. I mean, you can keep something on your bedside that's like really sweet and indulge in that right before you go to bed, so that your last thoughts and the things that you sort of are thinking about as you're ushered into dreamland are beautiful and peaceful and whole, and not, sort of like fractioned, or about separation or negativity or anything like that. You want to sort of be more in the sort of right-brained connective space as you go to sleep, and that's also going to help you to have more fruitful, pleasant dreaming too, and not thinking your way through through sleep, because a lot of people when they go to bed, they're like their minds are still working and they don't have restful sleep because they go to bed like trying to solve a problem versus like allowing themselves to relax so that the solution can just show up.
Oh, yes, I love that. And I'll just share my bedtime ritual real quick too I want to get every last second with Mama Glow, but just while we're talking about it, I think going to bed with that energy of all of the things you need to do or things on your to-do list can be really, really tough. So what I do is I write down 5 things that I'm grateful for, 3 things that I'm excited for tomorrow, and 3 things that went well today. And I try to go to sleep with that. And I think that practice has changed my life. So I love that. Everything you said there was just super cool.
So powerful, right? It's so
really
good to
is.
acknowledge, because then you get more positivity when you acknowledge that there's positive things in your life already.
Yes, and you can create some more of that. That's beautiful. Okay, well, my next question is probably the one I'm like most excited to ask. So you are a Taurus, as am I, and I've heard in lots of conversations with you, you talk a lot about being grounded. And I was just listening to an interview with Tara Stiles, and you were saying you guys were flying trapeze, and you were like, we as Tauruses need to be grounded, and you talk so much about that, and it is something that has been stuck in my mind since the first time I heard you talk about it in an interview with Gabby. So in regards to being a Taurus, what does that mean for your self-care practices? And I don't know too much about my sign, our sign, but I would love to know exactly how you incorporate that into your life for all the Tauruses and listening, and really just me. But how does it relate to you and the work you do, and any advice for fellow Tauruses?
That is so cute. Well, I definitely think that one of the biggest aspects that I take away from the zodiac, I look at all of these things as tools, right, to better understand, not obviously rules of thumb, but definitely tools for us to understand aspects of ourselves, and be able to look from the outside in, because obviously we're inside of ourselves, and it's hard to be able to pick apart the things that make you strong and the things that can weaken you. Sometimes it's great to just be able to read something and you're like, wow, that actually sounds like me. That actually resonates, right? And so that's what I've come to learn from this practice of astrology. I'm not by any means an expert or know nearly as much as I probably should. But what I would say is, what I've known about myself all my life is that I like to be rooted. And I'm a person that a lot of people attach to because I'm grounded. So, my son is a water sign, he's a Cancer, and it's sort of like a beautiful dance because he's water and I'm earth. And so we sort of meet at the shoreline, right?
Oh,
And
I love
I
that.
get to sort of be his tether to the earth and he gets to pull me into the water too. And so we're just this really beautiful balance that we have of water and earth, and we're like so in love. And what I've noticed though is that so he really feels feels secure because I feel so secure, right? And I'm always making sure that things around me make me feel that way, right? And if I'm in a situation where I don't feel that, I change my setting or I change my perception around it so I can understand what it is that's happening. And so I'm always up for a challenge, but I like to sort of notice when I am being stubborn, because that's definitely one of the Taurus qualities that can go good or bad, right? But I am stubborn. I do have, this thing of like not wanting to change, and change is inevitable. However, what I know about this is that because I was exposed to a lot of change as a child, my mom moved a lot. And I remember not loving that, and I haven't moved in 10 years. I live in the same apartment because I was like, I'm never going to move when I grow up. And so it's such a good thing to know about, like, habits that I have. What I would say about my self-care practice that's really important, and I think this goes for everybody, no matter where you are, who you are, how old you are, when you were born, we all need to take time for self renewal. And the self care practice, and what I call glow time, allows us to enter these portals of self renewal. So for me, it's definitely like drawing clear, distinct boundaries with people about my time and when I'm available. I used to never be able to say no. I'm sure you've had issues with this in the past, like everybody else has too. I used to never be able to say no. And I would say yes to everything, even before somebody would complete their sentence. I was already saying yes. And I learned that that can really burn you out. And you can get exhausted by taking up other people's energies and taking on other people's needs as your own, and then wanting to sort of be the hero and rescue or fulfill their need at the expense of your own well-being, right? And this is something we do as women, and this is a cultural phenomenon that's changing, that's shifting, that I'm definitely trying to help women to overthrow, right? That we need to reclaim our queendoms and really be in this practice of glow time. And so when you say no to something, you're really saying yes to yourself. If it's not something that you feel 100% into doing, you should say no. And I do it all the time. If I don't feel like it's a clear yes, it's definitely no. Like I don't like mull over and then call somebody. And if I have to have like a whole, you know, tribunal over like, whatever it is that I'm questioning, the answer is no. Because it's like, what am I weighing out? Like what other people think? Like if I feel like something's not right, that means the entire thing isn't right. It doesn't mean that it's wrong. It just means it's not right for me in this moment right now. And so I'm going to pass. Right. So whatever that is, I think that there's obviously opportunities for us to step up to the plate and really put on our bootstraps and go. But there's also times where something doesn't feel good, and you know that you shouldn't be doing it, but you feel, oh, it's a great opportunity. I don't know. Like you have to trust that God, in this infinite wisdom, will show up with some hotter shit for you. And you just got to know that like the next thing that's going to come is going to be amazing. And if you let this one go, you will have the space to bring the next thing in. So boundaries are very, very, very important. I draw a very strict boundary around my menstrual cycle. When I bleed, it's my time to rest, go to sleep earlier, to dream. We are designed in this time to actually, we're more, we are really connected with the moon. And so the energy around the moon is nocturnal, which means it's our time for our evening meditations, our lunar practices, and sleep, and not being out and trying to meet crazy deadlines and rushing around, really sort of disrupting our energy and depleting our energy stores. We actually lose a ton of iron during that time. So some people become borderline anemic, and which means that you're going to have less energy than most people at that time. So it's really important to just acknowledge what's happening in your body. During that time, I just say no to everything. I have a red line in the calendar. I don't do stuff at night. I rest. I know that I'm better in the daytime, so I'll do things earlier in the day. And then I cut off my day at about 2 o'clock, and then I just rest. I hang out and whatever it is, but I don't make excuses for why I should feel bad about it, or sort of try to overcompensate. I'm just very clear with people, like, no, this is when I'm done. And then people understand, like, wow, she has some boundaries. Like, she's really about her thing, And if you start doing that, people start to respect too, because they know they can't just like, pull you in any direction they want. So that's a big one. But in terms of the practices, I believe in like soaking, getting in the water, putting some some oils, maybe a couple herbs in the bathtub with you and soak in, creating a ritual. You can even do some like beautiful cleansing affirmations while you're in the tub. It's a time to tune out, not to like bring your iPad and catch up on like, Scandal, but like, you know what I mean? It's a time to just be without that. If you really do need to do something, you could read a book, but I would not do anything that's like electronic in the bathtub for obvious reasons, but also because it's stimulating and you want to be sort of shutting it down. You want to be trying to like, get in sort of a slumber mode and relax your body and your mind. And so I love taking baths. I also really believe in massage, healing touch. And so I have a massage table. I have a massage therapist come here and I just get massage like that. And I also love to go to a specific place for massage, when I want to be out. And sometimes I'll get the massage and then I'll go lay out on the roof if it's summer and allow the sun to just kiss me and just take a nap and swim. You have to do things that make you feel good and not make excuses for why you deserve them. Or like, oh, well, I did this. This is my treat. Like, you are a treat. You have to believe that you're the reason enough. Like, there's no other reason, right? You're the reason enough. So those are my, big things, right? Like, you have to do that. And then the other big, big, big piece that we have to not ignore is maintaining your diet. This is a daily glow time practice. What is it that you're putting into your body? Not saying you can't have treats every now and again or whatever.
Perfect segue, because I really wanted to talk about food. This is perfect.
Yes, you have to. We have to eat right. We have to eat glow foods. We have to eat right.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I'm so glad that you brought that up. So before we wrap, I want to ask you just a couple more questions on food. So going off of that, let me give you a little scenario, if I may. You ready for it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's 8 p.m. and you've had a long day, you're beat and you're starving, and how do you feed yourself? What do you make/eat when you come home? What's kind of your go-to nourishing glow food meal for dinner?
Okay. That's an easy one because I feel like that's been my life very as of recently. I come back in the house. I love that you've said like what's your go-to, because your go-tos should be already in your house, right? You shouldn't have to like call someplace to order takeout if you're really hungry. You should have the things that are that can make up that meal in your house already, right? So we have to keep stocked with powerful nutritive foods. So I come into the house and I would right away go to make a salad. I think that's the easiest thing. It's the quickest. And it's also, it just makes me feel really good to have greens. Like, I don't feel good about life if I don't eat greens for a day. Like, I've been places where you just can't eat the greens fresh. Everything's cooked to death and, whatever, like you could get some sort of stomach virus. And I'm just going crazy by the end of it because I am so used to having greens, whether they're juiced or they're pressed or whatever form. But I love, love, love sauteed cooked greens like kales and mustards and collard greens. And I really, really love a salad, like a fierce, kind of spring mix with like arugula, and I love mizuna and all the spicy greens and stuff like that. And I would just throw on like, a little bit of radish. I would toast some pumpkin seeds, which I love, with a little bit of like a Cajun mix or something.
Yeah.
And I put hemp seeds on there too. And then I always have dressing ready. I make dressing every single time I have a salad. So what I like to do and what I encourage you to do, because when you buy these dressings from the bottle, they're full of emulsifiers and all this stuff. It's just really not necessary. Icky stuff that your grandmother wouldn't even want you to eat, right? And she definitely wouldn't put in her food. Yeah. So I think that, if you have one day a week where it's a lighter day for you, if that's a Sunday, if you're going to go grocery shop, do your meal prep that day. So like if you have to cut up some veggies so that it's easier for you later. And even if you're too busy, they have a lot of the vegetables already prepped, fresh or frozen, so you can have those things available at your fingertips. But I would do all your sauces. So like if you want to do salad dressing, like a green goddess dressing or some sort of like vinaigrette, or lemon and oil. I mean, lemon and oil is so easy, but I do like lemon, olive oil. I put a little bit of the omega oil in there too, which has like the DHA. Um, and then I use like a little truffle salt, maybe a little bit of garlic, and probably like parsley and salt and pepper and a little bit of mustard. And I just mix it up, and I use that to dress my salads. And so if I have leftover, I sometimes try to make a bunch of it so that when I come in, like you said, at 8:30 at night, and I just want a quick salad, all I have to do is just put it all together and dress it, and then I'm eating like in 5 or 10 minutes. That's really my go-to glow food. I would also say, say I have to run out early in the morning, or I need a snack sort of like midday.
Oh, perfect. I was just going to ask you what your go-to staple breakfast is, how you nourish yourself in the morning.
Yes. So my morning nourishment is
We're so on the same wavelength.
Yeah, I love it, Taurus style. So my morning nourishment, especially, if it's hot out, this is a big one for me, is a morning smoothie, which I do very often. I'll do like acai palm berry with the blueberries, and I put a little maca powder in there. You can use coconut water. Sometimes I just use filtered water because I don't really like sweet smoothies. And I mix that up. I blend it. I put a little coconut oil in there, actually, raw coconut oil, and then I sprinkle it with granola, and I eat that fresh. Now that it's been hot, I've been doing watermelon juice with lime and ginger. Yeah. So I'll just blend that and drink that throughout the day, just to kind of keep cool. And then I would definitely say if it's colder weather, I'm a big like hot cereal person. So I love a quinoa porridge that I make.
Me too.
That's my favorite.
Look at us.
There we go.
I love that. So what are some of your favorite healthy things to prepare for your son? You said that he loves cooking in the kitchen.
Oh, he's like he loves like beans with rice and avocado. He likes avocado toast a lot.
Best.
Oh my God, it's his favorite.
My favorite too.
He loves that. He likes bean soups. And he really loves like ratatouille. He's very connected with like this whole sort of
He's a foodie.
He's a big foodie, yeah. But he's really into like anything you have to cut up and stew, and he's into that. So ratatouille was like one of the first things that he was like, Mom, I want to go make this. I think after the movie, he was like, I want to make ratatouille. So I was like, well, let's make some ratatouille. So he loves making that too. I have a lot of pictures of him cooking, and he loves making popsicles. I like to make him, I really just love when I make something and then I look at the colors on the plate and he doesn't know how lucky he is yet. And I think when he goes to college or whatever it is that he's going to do, where he's in a place where there isn't as good of food, so maybe that's camp or something where he first experiences that, he's going to be like, oh my God, like I was so lucky that my mom was cooking like this, because people are not cooking like this everywhere. So I think, I'm just grateful that he loves asparagus and lemon too. That's a big thing for him. I love to just make stuff that I know he loves, and I love to make food that I know is nourishing for him. I mean, it's one thing to just go to a takeout and then give your kids food and they're fed, but it's one thing to know that it's a totally different thing to know they're nourished, and know that also the food that you're putting into these little people's bodies is becoming their blood and their thoughts and their actions. And so we have to just be cognizant of the fact that what we're eating isn't in isolation with it's like in total conjunction with everything else that's happening in our bodies, like it becomes a part of us. So we can't separate what we're eating from the outcome of what we eat. So if you're eating Skittles for breakfast, guess what? You're not going to do so great on your test. And guess what? You might be in a shitty mood for the day. So like we have to think about, what we eat has, what the effects of what we eat has on our lives overall, but not just our personal lives, our lives as a society. So I think that, each of us has a responsibility to be that beacon of light, to shine your glow power in whatever way possible to enlighten other people, not through telling them, but showing them through your own actions. You can elevate other people by being yourself and being in a place of just, revelry in your life and loving your life and sharing that with other people by example. That's how we change the world, right? Through love and through embracing who we are fully. And I think that's what's really going to help change the face of food in this country, too. It's not just like the battling back and forth and, changing policy. That's huge, too. It's about us changing ourselves, like each of us taking a stand to change ourselves and helping to change the way other people think through our actions.
That is good. You are amazing.
Oh my, thank you.
Okay, well, I just have one more big question for you. Then I want to do a couple quick fire questions. So the last thing I want to ask you is just really, you do so much radical, amazing stuff. You are this amazing person. So how do you do it? How do you stay organized and show up fully for each part of your life? And maybe you could give us some practical tips on staying present, but during your day, getting so much done and staying focused.
Well, I think, first of all, that's very sweet to think that I'm organized. I have a totally different experience. I don't feel organized. I feel like there is some sort of level of organization overall to the chaos. But what I would say is I just don't beat myself up for my methods. Like, I see people who do things in a totally different way, who operate totally differently and are highly functional. And I just can't try to be them. And I just can't excuse how I am and try to say, well, I'm not good enough because, right? I just have to trust that the way that I do things is, good for me at this time, and try to incorporate things that work and see if they're effective. And if they're not, like, I throw them aside, but I take the lesson. For me, I'd say, like, to do it all, I think it's one of those things, like, when you're throwing a bunch of things, it's like if somebody's throwing you balls, you start to juggle them and then you see what happens. And sometimes something falls and, and sometimes you have to put more attention to one thing than another, and then you pick back up. And I think it's just, I think for people looking from the outside in, everything always looks like it's highly functional and perfect. And you know what I mean? Because you just don't know. You only see like when somebody's speaking or what, you don't get to see like the ins and outs and like, what they struggle with or what their challenges are or like their triumphs really even. You just hear about what you hear about. And I would say that I think everybody has, their strengths and weaknesses. For me, time management is always still a thing that I definitely have challenge with. It's like there's never enough hours in a day, and then some days there are, and I'm like so grateful I feel ahead, and then the next day I'm like, oh my God, how do I have 5,000 emails? So it's like you never stop, and the beauty of never stopping is that you never reach a place where you're like, okay, cool, I'm done. You know what I mean? Because you never want to get to that. You just always want to be working towards a space of constantly, growing and honing, right? And so that's really what I think it's all about.
Yeah, like there's no destination, and that, gosh, it's like I feel like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders. Just, there is no there. You're constantly moving, and that's just beautiful. What a wonderful.
I mean, I want to say this because I feel like everybody thinks, oh, I have to be in balance and balance and balance and balance. Like, even balance is off balance, right? It's like even when things are in balance, you see yin and yang, it's always moving. It's like that's why it looks the way it does, because it's swirling. It's also supposed to indicate that there's movement in that, even in that sign itself, right? There's movement. It's a wave, right? And so when we're thinking about this idea of balance, you have to think about, well, things are being thrown at me that throw me off balance. And then I find my way back to balance by doing, the opposite things, right? So it's like even with your diet, when you're looking at cravings, there's nothing wrong with cravings. It's actually throwing us back into balance. We're making our body recognize, oh, wow, I'm devoid of this nutrient, or I need this, or I need a little bit of that. Or maybe it's something more outside of what I need physically, but like emotionally, I need this or that. It just throws you to the opposite direction, like a pendulum, right? So it's never still, it's always moving. So we have to think about, our evolution happens through movement, not through stillness, and that there's nothing ever still. So nothing will ever be done. Like you'll always be constantly working and growing, and know that even if today you do something, you feel like, oh, I'm behind or I'm off or that didn't work the way I wanted it to, that always you have tomorrow and you have the next moment to correct it. And so it's never about like something that you did wrong. It's always about what did you learn from what went down, and how can you use that to apply to your next step, right? So that's another thing I want to make sure, because I think people feel like somehow they're inadequate if they can't like balance, right?
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. Gosh, you are on point today. Thank you so, so much. Is it cool if we just wrap with a couple quick-fire questions?
Sure.
Okay, cool. So, favorite color? Just say the first thing that comes to your mind.
Pink.
Love it. Favorite yoga pose?
Pigeon.
Nice. Favorite day of the week?
Oh, that's a nice one. The tie between Friday and Sunday. Friday.
Friday. Favorite hour of the day? Depends on the time of the month.
It depends on the time of month. I'm gonna say noon, I think.
Ooh, right in the middle. How about favorite movie?
Favorite movie? The Battle of Algiers.
Favorite song?
Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star.
Love it. Okay, favorite summertime vegetable and how to prepare it?
Patty pan squash, and I would say grilled in the summertime.
Yum. Juice or smoothie?
Green juice.
Avocado or tahini?
Avocado.
Lemon or lime?
Ooh, I love both.
Okay, both. Hemp seeds or chia seeds, if you had to choose?
Jeez. Chia, I guess.
Okay, and then now this question is totally for you, because I heard you say once in an interview, you talked about this seaweed sandwich, and I was just in New York, and I want to know your favorite New York City meal. If it's still the seaweed sandwich, or is that just when you were pregnant?
That was definitely when I was pregnant. I would say my favorite New York City meal. This is a tough one. I definitely would say that I love. Okay. All right. At ABC Kitchen, Jean Georges, inside of ABC Carpet and Home, there is, in the fall, they do a little crostini with like this squash, and then they have like a lentil soup, and they have these roasted cauliflower. So I do that. I do that like vegan, like that.
Yum.
Which is my favorite meal, and that's like in the fall. In the summer, because I gotta do two.
No,
In the summer, I would say Pure Food and Wine.
Oh,
The best, right?
Yeah, I
I would
wish we were
say
there.
Pure and Wine. I love their little croquettes with the and the with it's like a croquette and rocket salad or something they call it.
On the
Um,
patio, right?
it's like the patio.
Oh,
Yeah, just perfect to me. That's like the best. And with like a nice little smoothie or something after, like that's the best.
yum. Okay, I'm manifesting us being there on the patio having a meal together someday.
Done,
So on
done,
my vision board.
done.
Oh my gosh, amazing. Okay, thing that you would bring on a deserted island with you.
Mm, deserted island. I would bring the Hue chocolate, which is
Yum, I was just thinking kitchen.
aside from music, but the Hue chocolate, which is HU, it's Hue Kitchen.
I was
They
just
make
there. It was
this.
so good.
Oh my God, did you try the
Yes.
chocolate with the quinoa and the almond butter?
No, I didn't get that.
Girl, I'm
I
here to
missed
tell
out.
you,
I need to come
it
back.
is it's incredible. First of all, they sell it in Whole Foods now, so you can get it at Whole Foods
Oh,
or you can
nice.
order it. It is the single most, like I died when it was the best thing. And I'm not even like, I like chocolate, but I don't have to have it like that frequently. And when I eat it, it's like it lasts like a month in the fridge. Like I keep it in the fridge and it just lasts because I'll just take a tiny piece. That chocolate did not last like 30 minutes. Like not even 30 minutes. Like I ate the whole thing. And I was like, how am I done with this piece of crazy? So I would take that with me on a deserted island.
I love that. I can't believe that I didn't get that while I was there. Well, now I'm going to have to order it for sure because I've got to try it.
You have to try it.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. I love that. Okay, what is your favorite beauty ritual or routine?
I love to do part of my glow time is to do a little home facial. I love Tata Harper skincare products. I don't know if you're familiar, but she's amazing. She makes all of the products, in her farm in Vermont, and a lot of the stuff is grown there, or
We will
it
put the
comes
link
from
below.
places.
They're amazing.
Amazing Tata Harper. So I use her entire line for my glowing skin. I do for my daily routine, her face wash, her toner, and her rejuvenation. She's a lotion and a serum. I use those and a little face oil. But when I'm trying to really just like indulge, I do her mask too. So I'll and now that it's hot, it's like really nice to do a mask and then like jump in a kind of lukewarm shower and take it off and then like let the sun hit my skin again later. So that's my favorite thing to do, like her facials and like, do my nails and that kind of thing on a lazy Sunday.
I love that. Okay, last one. Where do you see holistic health, wellness, and nutrition going in 10 years versus where you would like to see them?
I see this field actually expanding so rapidly, exponentially from what it is now. I've seen what it's done in the past 10 years, and that's been exponential growth, but I see it becoming even more of a huge deal so that this industry probably will end up, I hope, end up, obliterating a lot of what's happening in the food system in terms of the food corporations and what they're doing to market to us and our children. I hope to see a complete shift when people really start to take charge of their health. I see that, working with health practitioners, nutritionists, and health coaches, and yoga and Pilates and all these kinds of people. I see that hopefully will be covered by insurance and that people will be able to have their own and be part of support groups that help them to get healthy. And I really see like also what I would love to see is people who choose this career and focus that have a passion for it really thrive, like really make money and really be able to support themselves and not be living paycheck to paycheck, but like really thriving because they're doing a valuable service in the world. Like they're offering a valuable, important service, not just through their knowledge, but their love and their attention and their real devotion to helping people and passion to help people. I really want to see people properly compensated for that because we don't see that now. We see people
Yes.
undercharging for their services. We see people getting taken advantage of for what they have to offer and not knowing how to properly price and all that. I really want to see in this next wave, like these people become the new rock stars, like how the doctors were like the hot thing and making money. I want to see these people who are really
Oh,
transforming the face of
yes.
health make some money and really be able to support themselves and live the lives that they deserve.
Yes, I'm literally like fist can it just be that way now? Like, I love that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. This has been absolutely amazing. I am so inspired. And I know I said that was the last question, but just one more thing to wrap with. What are you fearful of or excited about that you're challenging yourself with now? And what's kind of next for you? Just kind of as we wrap and tell people where to find you.
Cool. Well, I'm definitely excited for the next phase of Mama Glow and what we're up to with products. So stay tuned for that. It's super exciting. It's also the unknown. So it's also something that I'm, like not scared of, but definitely, I don't know anything. So we're just seeing how it goes. Definitely excited for my new series with the Scripps Networks. That's the home of HGTV, DIY, Food Network, Travel Channel, etc. And we have a show called Om on the Go, which is a lifestyle series where we interview different luminaries and find out where they find their inner peace. And that actual clip that you saw with Tara Stiles was a little bit of sort of footage from our day together that we spent on the trapeze. So you'll be able to find me doing all kinds of fun activities that are cool throughout the city, but also talking to people outside of a traditional interviewing format. So we won't be on a couch asking questions. We'll be on a trapeze or in a yoga hammock or, cycling or maybe even paddleboarding. So really cool things to come with that I hope you guys check out. So you just want to, go to momaglow.com for more info and things.
Yes,
but
and we'll have links galore below.
Awesome.
But gosh, thank you so much. This was amazing. I can't wait for all of those exciting things that you have ahead. I am so grateful that you coming to Wonderland was a hell yes instead of what like we were talking about before with having to consult a tribunal. I just feel so much gratitude for you for coming here and then for all the inspiration that you've given me so far and much more to come. So thank you so much for being here, Latham, and everyone for listening.
Thank you so much for having me. God bless you and your beautiful blog and your podcast. I hope that it continues to reach many people who need it and those who have yet to discover it, because you're also really shining in your glow power and doing powerful work in the world. So God bless you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Bye.